The main character of the story is Glenn, a human doctor who specializes in treating female monsters. By his side is a beautiful half-human, half-snake assistant named Safi. Glenn receives a request to perform physical checkups for the female warriors at the city's arena. One of these warriors is Tysalia, a centaur who is half-human, half-horse and the sole heiress of the city's largest transportation company. During the checkup, Tysalia expresses her desire to marry someone like Glenn, which greatly irritates Safi. After concluding that Tysalia is in good health, her two female bodyguards inform Glenn that she hasn't won a single match in over a month. That evening, while pondering Tysalia's situation, Safi invites Glenn to have some wine. In her drunken state, she tightly coils around Glenn and declares that she won't let any other girl touch him. The next morning, Tysalia continues to lose matches. Glenn realizes that she hasn't been wearing horseshoes, and her hooves are unevenly worn, significantly affecting her balance. Despite Tysalia's strong objections, Glenn, with Safi's help, fits her with a new set of iron horseshoes. Afterward, Tysalia returns to the arena and secures her first victory in a long time. During the war between humans and monsters, Safi was sent to Glenn's family as a political hostage. After the war ended, she returned to her hometown until both she and Glenn enrolled at the Monster Medicine Research Academy. While shopping along the river, a mermaid named Lulala offers to sing for Glenn and Safi in exchange for payment. But she stops mid-song. Unable to continue, Glenn examines her and diagnoses her with gill inflammation, caused by spending insufficient time in water. Lulala explains that she spends all day singing by the river to earn money to support her family, hoping to one day perform at the main square where she'd be paid more. Suddenly, a human child falls into the water, and Lulala dives in to save him. Though she successfully rescues the boy, she begins to lose consciousness after inhaling too much water into her lungs. Glenn immediately dives in and performs CPR, reviving her gills. After Glenn fully treats Lulala's condition, she is able to perform normally at the city square, and she begins to develop feelings for the young doctor. One evening, a female warrior chasing a thief is ambushed by his accomplices. The next morning, after Glenn and Safi finish treating a slime girl, the city leader Scatty, accompanied by her bodyguard Kanai, visits their clinic. Scatty's words are silent, so Kanai translates for her. Scatty asks Glenn to locate Kunai's missing arm, lost in a battle with thieves, and reattach it once found. Scatty also reveals that Kanai was once human but was subjected to experiments by doctors. After Scatty leaves the clinic, Kanai rejects Glenn's help, hating all doctors and insisting she'll find her arm herself. Outside the clinic, Kanai spots one of the thieves and chases him. Later, while Glenn is out, he runs into Tysalia, who is horrified to see Kunai's limbs lying on the street. Upon examining Kunai's leg, Glenn notices her stitches are severely deteriorated. Further into town, he meets Lulala, who gives him Kunai's right arm. Using Kunai's limbs, Glenn tracks her location. Eventually, he finds Kanai and helps reattach her body parts. Despite her protests, after talking, Kanai realizes Glenn's kindness and that he's unlike the unethical doctors who experimented on her. Back at home, Safi tells Glenn that a friend gave her an abandoned happy egg. Suddenly, a group attacks the clinic, forcing Glenn and Safi to flee with the egg. Kanai appears and reveals that the attackers are part of a slave trading criminal group. They capture female Happy and force them to lay eggs, which fetch high prices on the black market. Kanai suggests Glenn and Safi join her to help. While heading to the slavers' hideout by boat, the criminals ambush them from a bridge. Fortunately, Tysalia and her two bodyguards arrive and fight the attackers. Kanai and the soldiers storm the hideout, clearing the way for Glenn and Safi to enter and rescue the Happy. They find a Happy unable to lay her egg due to extreme stress, so Glenn assists with the delivery. As robbers burst into the room, Safi and Scatty fight them, but Safi is poisoned and faints. When she wakes, Glenn informs her that the poison only caused temporary unconsciousness, and the Happy safely laid her egg. Afterward, Safi tries to seduce Glenn but faints again as the poison lingers. While Safi sleeps, she asks Glenn to hold her tail, as they did when they were children. Glenn hires Tysalia to transport them to the Happy village to check the villagers' health. On the way, A landslide injures Kane, one of Tysalia's bodyguards, and the Happy transport her to the village. After treating Kane's leg, Glenn examines and treats the entire Happy village. Lana, Kane's childhood friend, becomes extremely distracted without Kane by her side, nearly ruining Tysalia's negotiations with the village about using Happy for air transport. Concerned for Lana, Tysalia asks Glenn to examine her. Glenn struggles to address Lana's psychological issues but, after consulting Safi, devises a solution, blindfolding her. Surprisingly, Lana quickly regains her focus. Kane and Lana are grateful to Glenn and attempt to seduce him. According to Kane, if Glenn marries Tysalia, both she and Lana would belong to him, and he could sleep with them now. But Glenn quickly declines. After treating Kane, Glenn and the group visit Illy. Glenn examines her and concludes she's not ill but simply molting. Illy rejects the diagnosis and angrily attacks Glenn, but Tysalia intervenes. Later, Illy tells Tysalia she wants to become a fighter, but Tysalia believes Illy lacks the skills, leading to a sparring match. Tysalia easily wins, though Illy leaves a small scratch on her face. When Tysalia shows Glenn an unusually large feather Illy shed, he seems to realize something. The next day, Tysalia and Safi help Glenn collect Illy's shed feathers. A villager then reports that Illy has run away. When they find her in the forest, Glenn informs her she's molting into mature feathers and has phoenix blood in her veins. Later, Illy excitedly shows off her new wings and regains her ability to fly. As Glenn and Safi prepare to return home, Illy bursts in, covered in sticky webbing. Upon touching it, Glenn identifies it as spider silk. In the forest, they encounter Urania, who introduces herself as Safi's best friend. Urania reveals she was waiting to capture Illy to see her rumored phoenix wings. At the village, Urania is thrilled to see Illy's wings. Noticing Safi's exhaustion from overwork, Glenn suggests she take a day off to relax at a hot spring. Meanwhile, Urania asks Glenn to examine her, then lures him outside under the pretense of helping her, only to trap and tie him up. Her goal is to get close to Glenn to make Safi jealous. However, Tysalia arrives in time to stop her. As they prepare to fight, Safi appears and reclaims Glenn, but she coils her tail too tightly, causing him to faint. That evening, while drinking together, Safi confesses her feelings for Glenn and her fear of other girls pursuing him. A loud tremor interrupts their romantic moment. The village elder reports that a giant is approaching. Tysalia organizes the village evacuation and sends Illy to the city to request Scatty's help. When Tysalia sneaks off alone to confront the giant, Glenn and Safi follow to assist. A female giant appears, seeking Glenn for a medical checkup. The villagers build scaffolding for Glenn to examine her, and he diagnoses her with a cold. While distracted, Glenn falls from the scaffolding but lands in the giant's chest. Nearly suffocating, he prepares cold medicine for her, and Urania sews her a warmer outfit. Afterward, Glenn and the group return to the city. During the dinner with Tysalia, they notice Safi spying on them. The two girls declare they will officially compete for Glenn's love. The next day, Scatty invites them to the city's founding anniversary ceremony. While Kanai speaks to the crowd, Scatty collapses. At the city's central hospital, Glenn and Safi meet their old teacher, Katuli. Upon meeting, Katuli clings to Glenn, annoying Safi. Katuli explains that Scatty has a rare, dangerous disease, surviving only because dragons are far stronger than other races. However, Scatty is indifferent to treatment, and the disease will eventually kill her. While changing Kunai's stitches, she asks Glenn to help cure Scatty. Visiting Scatty, Glenn hears her voice for the first time and sees her childlike appearance. Though reluctant, Scatty allows Glenn to examine her, and he discovers a tumor on her chest invading her veins and altering her blood flow. She believes it's due to her ancestors leaving the divine realm, causing their bodies to suffer on Earth. Glenn requests Kathyle's permission for a complex surgery, which she grants, but they need someone skilled with needlework. So Glenn enlists Urania. Initially, Urania refuses, fearing citywide backlash if the surgery fails, but she agrees to wear a nurse's uniform like Safi. Kanai tries to convince Scatty for the surgery but fails. Meanwhile, at a forge, Glenn meets Mei Mei, a one-eyed girl lacking confidence in her appearance. He asks the forge master to craft surgical tools. And the master forces Mei Mei to make surgical needles despite her reluctance. Urania assists Kanai with her stitches at the clinic. Katuli and Glenn visit the forge to inspect the new tools while Mei Mei works tirelessly on the needles. The next day, Illy rushes to inform Glenn that Mei Mei has collapsed from overwork. At the clinic, Glenn diagnoses her with exhaustion. Back at the forge, Mei Mei explains she's trying to create thinner, stronger needles. Before leaving, Glenn advises Mei Mei to be more confident. Glenn visits the city hall to convince Scatty for the surgery. Meanwhile, Safi, Urania, and Tysalia have a girls' night out at a tavern. Back at the clinic, Safi catches Urania stealing a dragon scale. As Urania tries to flee, Safi and Tysalia stop her. Instead of turning her in, they have a heartfelt talk. Urania reveals she's fallen for Glenn because of his kindness. While persuading Scatty, she explains her refusal to undergo surgery, feeling she's lived long enough and is content with the city's peace. However, when Glenn suggests living longer to try new things, she agrees to the surgery. That night, during the surgery, the entire city anxiously awaits. The next morning, the surgery is announced as a complete success. Scatty delivers a speech to the citizens in her own voice. Meanwhile, Safi falls ill, and Glenn stays home to care for her. While out, Glenn encounters Scatty and Kanai with a broken carriage. Scatty, delighted to see Glenn, calls him Oni-chan. Mei Mei arrives and repairs the carriage. In thanks, Scatty gifts Mei Mei and Glenn 2 barrels of premium wine. But Glenn rushes off for an urgent matter, leaving Mei Mei alone with the barrels. In the Happy Village, the giantess has been helping the villagers. Glenn asks Tysalia's team to transport the wine barrels home. At the clinic, while Urania teases Safi, Illy and her friends arrive with fruit from the happy villagers. Glenn returns with food collected from townsfolk along the way. Everyone gathers at Glenn's house, using the food to throw an outdoor feast. And the story of the doctor who heals female monsters ends happily. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to follow the latest anime videos.